podcast series. The more you participate, the more you're going to get out of it. So I encourage you to ask questions throughout. I will pause at the end of each section, but feel free to raise your hand in the dialogue box if you would like to ask a question, and don't feel like you're interrupting me. I'm quite fine with that. I'm here for you, so the more you can get out of it, the better. So let me just go into this. Yes, this is a series. This is the second series in our monthly water cooler titled Law, It's a Business, every first Tuesday of the month for the rest of 2019, starting at 12 p.m. Eastern. I want to shout out a big thank you to Equa Marketing for sponsoring this podcast series. Great partners, and also thank Lila, who's on with me today, facilitating the presentation. So you want to grow up. You want to go from solo practice to building a firm. Well, first of all, it's no easy feat. And let me congratulate you from one entrepreneur to another. If you have a solo practice, then you already know the first steps of going out on your own. It takes guts, stamina, persistence, determination, and a lot of hard work. What I intend for you today is to lay out what I believe are the key elements of growing from a solo practice into a firm. There's no size determination of what firm that you're growing into, but beyond yourself into building a team and going beyond your name, LLP. Again, I will remind you, please ask questions at any time. You don't need to wait to the end. Let's dive right in. I'm going to focus on leadership, HR and leadership, and marketing and business development. There are a number of chicken and egg challenges. And when I see this picture, I think, okay, so I put the chicken first. The eggs will come to follow, and that begs to the question, which does come first, the chicken or the eggs? And it's quite common in any small business, whether it be law practice or other, of how to balance many factors. And there are other considerations, of course, office space and the logistics and legal and all of that. But again, I'm going to focus on the key areas where I believe make the difference, and that is in the HR and your leadership, and then the marketing and business development. So I'm just going to close that so it doesn't. Capacity versus employees, building your team, the options around building your team, roles and responsibilities, delegating, and leading. So, capacity, employees. I love this quote. Now, it's old school, keep in mind, because it's in the male gender. A man who represents himself has a fool for a client. Abraham Lincoln. My quote, a person who tries to fill all roles has a fool for a boss. Trying to do everything yourself, you're not going to get there. You need to build a team of support. I have a bus visualization here because it's about getting the right people on the bus. And that's a quote from Jim Collins in his book, Good to Great, one of my favorite entrepreneurial books. It's actually more about big business, but the concept is incredible because when you think about it, if you're going to be going somewhere, you want to get the right people on the bus before you decide where you're going to go. How large should your team be? What roles are most important? How do you plan for growth? And it's hard when you first start out because you have to do everything yourself. I understand that. I am an entrepreneur. I'm a small business owner myself. When you're solo practice, you are doing everything yourself. But as you look towards growing a firm, you want to figure out what are you best at and what are some of the other people around you that you need to balance out the team. And if you want success, you better plan for it. In other words, bring on people. You don't want to be in the office till 10 at night or over the weekend for months on end. You're going to burn out. So don't try and do everything. Don't try and do everything yourself. Delegate, bring people on. I'm going to go through the process of what that looks like. And basically, it's kind of like, I like using the analogy, it's kind of like putting a puzzle together. The different pieces of the puzzle are the different people on your team. Now, generally speaking, the rule of thumb that I use with clients is when you are consistently at about 60% capacity of your workload with clients and files, it's probably a good time to start looking for help. And why I say that is because at some point you're going to need to invest your time on training and onboarding those people. If you're too busy, you won't have the time to do that training. And it's going to be like a gerbil on a, not a gerbil, a rat on a circle roll. I can't think of the name right now. You're going to be going around and around and around and never seem to find time to get it all done. So I say 60% capacity, start looking. And don't think that it's too early to get help. In fact, I think planning ahead is critical here. And before you put too much money out and you won't have enough coming in, but let's look at the formula a little closer. If you start looking by the time you're at 60%, that gives you the luxury of time to find the right people. That's key, the right people. So that by the time you reach 80% capacity, you still have enough time to train them and get them up to the level you want before you hit 100%. Being in solo practice, most of your time is spent doing the work. And as you grow into a firm, a lot more of your time will be required in leading and managing your people. Keep that in mind. So then it's about getting the right people in the right seats. Also another quote from Jim Collins' book. But don't just bring anyone on. As Jim says in his book, get the right people on the bus. You don't get fixated on job titles. First, take a look at your role. What's most important? What's most valuable? You will always be, keep this in mind, you will always be the most valuable asset in your firm. You're the name, you're the brand, it's your vision, it's your baby, it's your business. But identify the duties and responsibilities that could easily be delegated to someone else who would likely be better at it. And when you look at the math, the difference between what you charge for your services and what you will pay someone to do it for you, the math is blatantly obvious. This is where I've not only seen a number of people burn out, but they leave growth and profits on the table. Another thing to consider is the tasks that you don't like doing. Get them off your desk. This, again, you're in control. All decisions are in your hands. The tasks that perhaps you're not the most adept at, get them off your desk. Build your team around your own strengths and weaknesses, giving you the freedom to focus on your strengths and plug the holes left by your weaknesses. There's, I was talking about options, employees versus contractors and outsourcing. It doesn't mean you have to have an entire team of fully employed people. You can delegate certain services to virtual assistants. You can have people on contract. You can have people part-time. There's a number of options. Now, when you get the right people in the right places, make sure everyone in your team is in the right place within your firm, doing the most valuable tasks that support you and leverage your best skills. And it starts with you. If you are the most experienced lawyer, then you're going to want to be spending time lawyering, right? And not doing admin and not doing management. You want to bring in management to help support you in that. The same goes for everyone you bring on forward. So I don't like to use the analogy, but there's really no better one. If you think about it as a pyramid, you're at the top of the pyramid. You start by making sure you're doing the most important things in your role, and then everyone on your team below you is doing the same. Should a paralegal, for instance, be doing the work an assistant could do? I think you follow my point. Make sure, starting from the top, everyone is in the right seat. Now, delegating. Delegating may seem easier than it's, well, at first appearance, it may seem easier than it is. It's not. There's a number of factors that come into play. And first and foremost is your trust in the person who you're going to be delegating. I understand this. Again, it's your baby. You've done all the work yourself. You know how the work is done. It's paramount that you bring in the people that you can trust to delegate to. And here's a really simple, effective, and proven formula. First, give clear and concise direction and instructions. You can never be too clear. You may have done this task 1,000 times. Don't forget that. But the person who you're delegating it to, it could be their first time doing it. So you can never be too clear in your direction. Second, understand, this is a hard part. It's a hard lesson learned. Understand that no one on your team will ever have as much skin in the game as you do. That term means caring, the loyalty, the devotion, the dedication. It's just a simple fact. No one will ever have that level that you do. You have to understand that. Third is get the sign off. When they understand what you need and when you need it by, and they agree to a hard deadline. This is critical. So there's nothing left to be up for interpretation. Let them know you're there to help. It's very common for young or new employees to try and figure it out on their own. They fear that coming to you will make them look incompetent if they ask for help. It's the opposite you want to encourage. You want to make sure they know you're there always to support them. If they have a question, the culture that you want to create is ask the question, ask for help. Don't try and do it on their own. It's the lone wolf syndrome, and I've worked with a number of young lawyers who fit that category, and it takes them a long time to get over that feeling that if they ask for help, they're less or they're not strong. I can't say it enough. I advise you to create the culture where your people know at any given point in time they can come to you and ask for advice. If they hit a roadblock, how to help them through it. You're always there to help them. You want to encourage and enable people to think on their own and be independent, but they can't do that without the training and mentoring and support. So at this point, HR, leading, are there any questions?
Do you have a place you recommend to look for building the right team?
Pardon me?
Do you have a place where you like to start looking for building the right team?
Yes. Okay, that's a good question. I did kind of go into it a little bit, but I'll go back and highlight it. It's a very good question. Where you start building your team is around your strengths and weaknesses. Okay. Every client's different. Everyone has different skills, different abilities. Instead of trying to duplicate the same abilities or same skills that you have as a lawyer, look for complementary skills and abilities and experience.
I was wondering sort of more physically where to look for them.
Online, Indeed, advertisements. It's how you reach out, and that is a good question because when you see ads for hiring, half the time I see the employer trying to sell themselves on something that they're not.
Right.
And this is where you want to be brutally honest. You want to be attracting the exact person, the right fit for the right role.
Okay.
From my experience, I know there's everyone out there. So be frank, be very, very clear on what the opportunity is. In your interviewing process, get to who they are. You know, I actually have been doing a big project with a firm in Toronto and designing their whole interviewing and testing process and qualifying. And it's so that people aren't gaming it. They're not trying to be something that they think you want. They're just being themselves. And you as a firm, as an employer, are frankly honest with what the opportunity is. So let me give you a very specific example. There are certain lawyers out there that have an ability and talent and their head down, paperwork. They're not the human interaction type.
Right.
They'd rather be looking over documents all day long, and I mean all day long. That's what they like. That's a certain skill. That's a certain ability. If that's what you're looking for, be frank about it. If you want more of the client management skill, so the people skills, be upfront with that. And depending on your practice area, depending on your clients, it will help you determine what you really need.
Right.
And again, with measuring your own skills and your own abilities, if you're fantastic at the client management, then that's not exactly where you need to start first, is it? You want to get people on board that can do the grunt work, and you're managing the client and the relationship. If you're not as good at client management and you're more like a doer, then you surround yourself with people that can manage the clients. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And then in the way you reach out and find people, it's the wording in your ad when you're recruiting. And again, just being brutally honest, because I see all the time where typically it's larger firms, not smaller firms, but larger firms will go out of their way to paint a picture of, wow, this is the greatest place on earth to work. And it's a low entry job. And it's not, you know, unicorns and sunshine. And no, it's grunt work for a couple of years, earning your stripes. And if people are aware of that and they're on board with it, then you're more likely to get a good fit.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. You can follow up if you have anything after that as we go forward. I want to talk about marketing and BD. And for those of you who were on the first podcast, this is a little bit of repetition because I'm pretty proud of this approach. It's very proven and successful, and it's called TST, Targeted, Strategic, and Tactical. The targeted is, and again, I see this often, where, and it's not just lawyers, it's people in business in general, are going to go out and they want to shout out to the world, you know, look what I got, blah, 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 blah. That can waste a lot of your time. So right out of the gate, you want to understand who do you want to serve, who are the clients you are really trying to attract, and where are they? So before you go out in all directions, make sure you're in front of the right people, you're saying the right things, doing the right things, and doing the follow-up. And that's the first critical step, is becoming more targeted in your approach to marketing and business development. You will waste less time. You will get better results, and you will ideally attract the best potential clients. Now, one way of finding this out is asking your best current clients. Where are they? Where do they hang out? Where do they network? What associations do they belong to? What do they read? They'll tell you everything you want to know. So you look at your AAA client profile and ask them where they are. Oh, I got ahead of myself. That's where they are, who they are, where they are. And the bottom line is this: if you want more good clients, you simply ask your current good clients, and you learn more about them, how to reach them, where to be in front of them. You'll understand them and their language, so you'll know what you need to be saying and what you need to be doing. And that will get you off in the right direction. Then strategic, Again, it's always about maximizing your time and realizing the best possible results on your investment. And that starts with having a plan. Now, when I say plan, I don't mean 30 pages. I don't mean it has to be a painful, exhaustive experience, taking months or longer. More like a to-do action list of, okay, I know the people I want to attract. I know where they are. What am I going to do to get in front of them? How am I going to get in front of them? And what am I going to say and do? That's really, you can keep it as simple as that. Start with your end game. What is the big picture that you want to create? Set goals and deadlines. I read once, I can't remember where, goals are dreams with deadlines. I love that expression. So when I say start with your end game, that's the dream. That's like, what do I want to create? What's the big picture? What's the kind of firm I want to create? Kind of clients I want to serve? Impact? What's my legacy going to be? What do I want to do with this? That's the dream. Then, when you set deadlines, that's making clear goals out of those dreams. Do you follow?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I can't remember where I read it, but it stood out to me because as an entrepreneur, I'm always thinking big, and that's what entrepreneurs do. But when it moves from dream to goal, that's because there's deadlines and there's accountability. You think the longer term, break it down, midterm, short term, and today. What can I do today to start on that process of making this happen? Again, I am a very big fan of keeping things simple and not overly detailed, because when it's simple, it's easy to actually progress and make notes, follow through. So then the tactical, that's about the actual steps. And I was talking to Lila as we were getting ready for this presentation today, and she was talking to me a little bit about her career and how she got started with Equa, and it was with a writing capacity. And it reminds me of a client I had actually in Calgary, an associate at a large firm, national firm, and we're doing our initial consultation, and I was finding out what he did currently in the way of marketing and business development, what he liked, what he didn't like. And I'll always remember this because I think it's the most vivid example I've ever come across. He said to me, he goes, if I have to write to further my career, I quit. And I laughed and I said, okay, well then we're not going to push you to write. So it's about, again, finding out what you like, what you're good at, what you're naturally good at, and then looking at other things that maybe you can improve, but weighing the consequences of negative and positive. If you don't like doing something, you're not likely to keep doing it. And the thing about marketing and business development is repetition. So be honest with yourself. Like I was talking about, I went back. Yeah. Right. Here we go. Like I was talking about, be honest with people that you're looking to hire. Be honest with yourself and your own likes and dislikes and what you're good at. You don't have to do all of these things. These are just a list of potential things to get out there and get in front of those right people. But focus on what you like and what you're good at, because you will do more of it if you like it and you're good at it. Now, one important thing, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Are there any questions about that part of marketing and business development?
I think you covered that section very well.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go into branding. Here's an interesting thing. Over the last, I'd say, 8 years, you see a trend, and don't take my word for it, Google it. You see a trend moving away from my name, LLP, to something that has more impact from a marketing standpoint. So a brand name for a law firm that does not involve your name, or names, partners, and the rest of it. Again, Google, you'll see a trend, many across Canada and definitely in the United States, firms that are having more of a corporate type branding name. That's one part of it. And here's the other thing too. If you look ahead, because I do some work with succession planning, if you look ahead, and I know if you're just starting to go from solo practice to firm, it may be way ahead, but your firm is more valuable when it's been branded from the very beginning. And if you think about the legalities, the law society, your accountant, the legal name, all these things, at some point, if you're going to change it down the road, you might as well do it from the very beginning. And you'll save yourself money, and you'll be preparing yourself for selling the firm down the road, either internally to other partners as you bring on, or externally. Again, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but I do because of where I work with clients. That is the future. At some point, if you're looking at retiring and you want to sell your business, a branded business is worth more. And again, there's many different names. I've got a couple of examples. I work with a firm out here in BC. It's called Peak Law Firm, of course, mountains. Okay, there's several in Toronto and Calgary that are ahead of the curve. And I figure if you're going to go from solo to firm, why not get the brand right out of the gate? Now, it's not just a logo or a name. A good brand speaks to your target audience and conveys your mission, your values, your integrity, and your service offer. And again, this is where it comes down to your vision. What do you want to create? And it's about you. But I have a couple notes here. My Name LLP, or Streamline Legal Services LLP, Freedom Legal Services, Peak Law Group, Convergent Law. There's a number of them. And at the end of the day, this is your stamp, right? Your name, your offering, your vision, your creation. So that does go into marketing somewhat. Branding is a part of marketing. But I see that opportunity missed a lot of the time. And so a quick couple of factors that go into creating your brand is, who are your clients? What kind of law are you practicing? What kind of lawyer are you? And the most important thing is, who is my ideal client? How do you speak to them accurately, in a way that they can get what you're about? And ultimately, you're in this, you're making a living here, I think. And in order to make money, you need to get clients. So branding is part of it. So do some research. Check out what other firms are doing. This is a part of target market research. Check out what other competitive firms are doing. Talk to your best clients. Brainstorm some ideas. Actually working with a client in Toronto. She is quite successful. She's got a small firm already, and she's growing. And initially when we started, she gave me a whole background about what was important to her values. Currently, she uses, I won't do the exact name of her firm right now because it's confidential, but she uses her last name, which starts with an M. And her values are really aligned with empowering people to make better choices, to make law easier. So I did a play on words, and I came up with M Power Law Group, as in empowering. Here's one example of being creative with a brand for your firm, and I think she's going to take it. She's already registered it, and she'll be moving towards that in the future. So that's branding. Again, those are some little tidbits there. So HR and leadership, marketing and BD, and this all boils down to the people side of the law business. So it's not the office space, it's not the computer, it's not the files, it's not the paperwork, it's not the pencils, it's the people side of the business. And that is under HR, leadership, marketing, and BD. And I have questions.
Okay, I have a question. You talking about tying it into branding, but you also talked about that one firm named Peak. Are you better off to go with a name that doesn't exactly reflect your branding, so that as your firm grows and your vision grows, you aren't worried about being Peak criminal law and suddenly you're taking on civil litigation?
Okay, so I'm not sure I completely understand that question. Are you asking if you should remain open and flexible in the name?
Exactly. Are you better off to have a name that's not your name, but reflects your area, your city, whatever, something a little bit more on the generic side to where you have room to change your brand, be flexible with your branding?
Okay, well, before I answer that, if we use Peak as an example, Peak is very broad. Peak is referring to the geography, right? It's a firm out here in BC, in the Valley, not in Vancouver, outside of downtown Vancouver. But Peak represents our geography. There's mountains everywhere. They're not limited in their practice area. They have a few practice areas. So there's an example of keeping broad. If you decide that you're going to go niche practice area though, say you're going family law, and you know that you're not going to go beyond family law, then I would suggest you can be more specific. So again, it depends on what area of practice you want to do, and I would think that you probably have a pretty good idea of at the beginning if you want to be niche or if you want to be broader. If you don't, that's part of coaching support as well, as helping you clarify that. You know, where do you want to go with the business? I'm not the one to make that decision. I'll help clients make that decision. It's up to you. It's your business. It's a good question. But if you're not sure, or if you're pretty sure you're going to want to stay broadly focused, then yes, keep a name that is more open to serving in different practice areas.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, this is the creative part. That's the fun part. It's coming up with something creative and unique. There's no shortage of words in the English language, and this is where a lot of people. Funny, I had a client about 2 months ago. She asked me. She goes, "Doesn't the Law Society require that you have names?" No. They've changed those rules years ago. There's no Law Society rule that says you have to have named partners in the name of your law firm.
I have a question.
Yep.
So there's a potential that I might take over a family firm.
Yep.
So it's in the names of my family name. It's not my last name because I'm now married. Is it better to carry on? That firm has had its name for about 40 years. Is it better to carry on with that, or to try and rebrand like right from the get-go because I'm debating, like, do you change the name at all? Do I change it later, or do I change it right away?
That's a very good question, and I have a very specific answer. Change it now.
Okay.
Yep.
You don't
Do it now.
that.
Don't be afraid. I have the same question from a firm in Toronto, and they're not in family, they're in another practice area, and he's very senior. We're talking about this would be a succession mandate with him, and his wife is the office manager. And he brought up on the call, he said, "Well, my name, I've been doing this for 30 years. What about my name?" And I said, "Do you remember a company called ING Direct?" Probably not, because it's now called Tangerine.
Right.
Branding is a great way to relaunch a whole marketing campaign to say, "Hey, we've been this, and now we're growing, and we're moving towards this.
Right.
We are now blah blah blah." Right. So I would say yes. If you're looking at buying another firm, another practice, I would say rebrand right from the beginning.
Okay.
Make it a part of your entire marketing campaign, and promote the hell out of it. Excuse my language.
Got it.
That's an excuse. Everything you write, if you're going to spend any money on advertising, if you're going to be speaking, if you're going to be doing sponsorships, you get the new name out there everywhere. You put an email message for 3 months prior to the rebrand. Like, you just get it out there everywhere. And it's a huge marketing strategy.
Oh.
Love to help you with that, by the way.
Good to know.
No, I couldn't be more adamant about that. It's such a great opportunity to do it right out of the gate.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. Well, that's me. And I don't talk about myself because I hate presenters that talk about themselves. So here I am. If you want to go deeper, you can reach out to me. Again, a big thank you to Echo Marketing. Very much appreciate your sponsorship of this water cooler series. And thank you again.